Hey, what's up, guys? Making this video today to try to answer a few of the questions that you guys might have about getting started in Drive Away and everything. And so I'm going to do my best to answer some of the questions that I've gotten in the past. So a lot of the people they want to know, who should I go with? What type of company should I go with? What are some names of some good companies? Well, I mean, that's a hard question because what I think a good company is might be different than what someone else thinks a good company is. But what I do is I make a mental list of things that I require from a company, and I'll just go through a few of them. One of which is I prefer to have a company pay for the tolls on a toll road, which I work for Truck Movers right now, and they don't pay for tolls. So I avoid runs that has a lot of tolls in it just because of that simple fact. So I would like to get a company that pays for hotels. Like if you do 1,000 mile run, they give you one hotel. That'd be nice. But another question of mine is always, what is the rate of pay? Obviously, for doing a load, and they vary. I mean, I've that Spirit Miller I used to work for that I quit here recently. They was like 35 cents a mile. Yes, 35. And so, I heard that Mammo Transportation out of Indiana. I used to work for them. I did 4 years with them. So, but I heard that they dropped their rate, but they pay for fuel. So, I mean, their rate is 55 cents a mile, but they pay for fuel. So, I don't know how it is now, but when I worked for them, they didn't pay for fuel. They give you a fuel surcharge. I made a lot better money than I make with truck movers, but like I say, they dropped the rates. It's different now. 55 and fuel paid. So, and then if you have a spouse that rides with you and you guys do a pair of units, I heard that they'll throw in uh, motels on those since you're running two units at once, and that's Mammo Transportation out of, I think it's Goshen, Indiana. So I worked for Quality in the past, and they pay for tolls and they pay quick. I like to be paid quick, and they do a, a I don't know how to explain it. Basically, they help drivers get equipment, and then they take a percentage out of each load that you do. But also, they take a percentage out for their escrow account, and I'll get into the escrow account here in a minute. But they're all these companies vary, and I used to work for Quality, but the problem with them is the pay was low. I don't know how it is now. I worked for them for about a year, and their pay was so freaking low that I couldn't stand it. Like, they would say, well, you got to take a short run to do a long one. Obviously, all I wanted to do is long runs. And they're like, yeah, you got to do a short run and then do a long one. We can't give you a long one without knocking out one of these short ones from the yard. So I would do the short one. It'd take me all day to do it. By the time I got back to the yard to get the long one, I've lost a whole day and I made like 35 or 40 bucks. I'm like, man, this ain't even worth it. I'm not going to make $35 in a day. This is retarded. I can make more at McDonald's working there. Minimum wage. So I got tired of them real quick. And then I got on with a company called Drive Away USA. And they're over in, I can't remember the name, but they're over in Kansas. And it's women that run it. I don't have any problem with the women that women running a business, but One of the women in particular was the dispatcher, and she was a straight up bitch. And so me and her got into it one day, and I don't know if I quit before she fired me or if she fired me before I quit. I don't know how that worked out, but needless to say, I stopped working for him because me and her got into it, and she was just a bitch. It's hard for me to handle a, anybody that's being a bitch. A guy could be a bitch and a woman could be a bitch. I'm just not singling women out. So, got into it with them, but I tell you what, I was making pretty good money with them. And I'll tell you what I would do. She would be like, hey, would you take this run going out to Virginia? And I'd be like, yeah. I said, is there any more money on top of that? She'd give you a price, and then I'd say, is there any more money on top of that? She's like, look, here's what I'll do. I'll give you $200, and I'll throw in a hotel. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I'll do that. So, the money was good, but I heard from another guy that works for her now that she's mellowed out a lot. So, I mean, it could be a good company for you, but shoot, man, I ain't going back. And let's see, who else? I worked for J&J Drive-Away, and they seemed like they was all right. And I worked for Team in the past, and they seemed like they was all right. But I went through a couple of years to where I was running really, really hard, and I was drinking a ton of energy drinks, and that ended up screwing up my heart. So all these energy drinks, I was drinking like 8 to 10 a day, and I'd stay up for 20 hours, and I was making what I thought was a fortune. I mean, I was banging out the dollars, and I'd throw down like 1,200 miles like it was nothing, just ripping it. And then I was just banging out the loads. I had 3 companies going at once, and I had them all. I was juggling them all. I was ripping it, man. I was going through tow vehicles. I was wearing them out right and left. But I don't do that stuff anymore. So I had to take 2 years off because my heart started going into AFib. So a lot of these companies, I just quit. I just dropped them. Dropped them like they is hot. And I went and started doing some lawn care work and to get myself back into shape and everything. And then I started back, and I pretty much started out with nothing. I didn't have a tow vehicle. I had a few $100s to my name. I mean, I borrowed my wife's car to get started, and I pretty much had nothing. And so if you're at where I was, then this could be the video for you. So basically, this is how you do it. You make a list of requirements that you need from a company. Get a piece of paper, pen, make that list, and go down that list with every single company, and that's how you choose what company you want to work for. You can listen to other people, but who's to say that their bad experience, it's not like the experience you're going to have. You're going to have a good experience, hopefully. So I'll go down a few more of the companies. Obviously, I've worked for Truck Movers twice. So I quit when I started having all those heart problems. And then I came back on with them again. And, I don't know. I think I like them better now than I liked them then. But I got more runs and made more money then than I do now, if that makes sense. And so, let's see, who else? Bennett. I worked for Bennett. They basically screwed me out of some money. It's like, some people are going to be like, oh, that's small change. But, is the point of it. It was like $120. So I'm like, forget them. And it was kind of a hassle to even work for them. And then ATC, I worked for them, but I had trouble with lining up runs with these guys. It's a very small company. They're out of Tennessee. They pay 85 cents a mile, fuel paid, and they don't give you hotels. All your expenses is yours. They pay for tolls. I mean, it sounds great. Sounds like good money, but here's the thing. I have a tow vehicle. I use a tow vehicle. I like a tow vehicle. So what I do is I try to make runs connect. Like I'll do one run for truck movers, I'll do one run for ATC, and then I'll try to do one for Pinnacle, the new company I just got on with. So I try to connect it all, and that ATC I just couldn't connect with. I mean, they would have a run. The closest run they would have would be like way over in Pennsylvania, but shit, man, I'm way over here in Texas. I'm not going to go that far, and then I can't get a run that gets me over by there. So, I mean, it was frustrating, so pretty much I don't work for them anymore. But, I've worked for a lot of different companies, and I'm not listing them all, but, you just got to get out there, figure it out, and the best way to do it is get on with two companies. And number one, ride the bus. Ride the bus for a month. You'll want to give up doing drive away if you do this. I'm warning you. Because riding a bus is a whole different can of worms, buddy. Man, it's tough. I'll tell you a quick story about me riding the bus. So, I was out in California. Made it down in San Jose, California. I rode the bus down there. I'm trying to get on to the Amtrak train to get home. Okay, so I get down there, I jump off the bus, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, San Jose, homeless population, 2 o'clock in the morning. This is not a good scenario. So I usually have a giant military-looking backpack. I wear this not to look like I've served in the military, but yet I wear it because it's like a durable, badass backpack that I could take and throw it and run away if I need to, or I could take and use it for another 15 years. I mean, it's very durable, and it's it fits my shoulders and everything. It's a good backpack. So anyway, I had this baby loaded down. I had food, water, clothing, all my legals, GPS, the whole 9 yards in this backpack. Everything was in it. I was wearing a hoodie. All right, so this guy is pretending like he's talking on the phone, and he's circling me. And I mean, not like, a perfect circle. He's walking behind me, trying to catch me off guard and make me set that backpack down so he could run up and grab it and then run away. But I knew he was going to try to rob me. So I carry a knife, and I had my knife. I was ready. I was going to stick him. So anyway, this one guy walks up to me, and I start talking to him, and he just had a t-shirt on it, and it was kind of cold, And the crazy guy that was talking to himself that was going to rob me, he walked away, and the guy's like, hey, have you seen this guy in a hoodie and blah, 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 and gave a description of the crazy guy just perfect. He's like, he just robbed me. And I'm like, no way. And then the guy's like, yeah, he just robbed me. Took my sweatshirt, everything else. All I have is a bus ticket. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I said, hey, when he comes back, do you want to rob him? And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, me and you will rob him, take all of his clothing off of him, leave him in his underwear, throw all of his clothing over this barbed wire fence to where he can't get it, and send him on his way. Show him what it's like to be robbed. And the guy's like, seriously? I'm like, dude, I ain't playing. So the guy, he never came back. I ended up pulling my hoodie sweatshirt off, and I gave it to the guy. And he couldn't believe I just took my sweatshirt off and just handed it to him. Blew him away. And so then, that's just one story out of 1,000 I could tell you about riding a bus, riding a train. I've been down in Alabama, and they thought I was an undercover cop. They like, oh, Boots the Popo, and all this stuff. I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to get a bag of chips. I mean, come on. So then, I mean, I've been down in Memphis, and then it's not good to ride the bus. It's not so bad to ride the train. To fly for me, uh, it's frustrating because I sit there and I people watch, and then people that go to the airport, not to disrespect a bunch of people, but they annoy me. I mean, they are just annoying to watch. I'd rather sit at a bus station and watch the people there, or sit at a train station and watch people. But the transit system is tough. And to get around in a city without using a taxi, because, there was an Uber when I started doing drive away. I used to do the city buses. I just jump on a city bus and roll out. I'd cross town or where. I mean, I've gone through Houston, LA, San Francisco. I've gone through Chicago and everything on city buses. Wasn't a big thing for me. No one really messed with me or anything. But, I always try to travel in the daylight. At night, you get a whole different type of a crowd. So, and then if you're going to not have a tow vehicle, there's apps that you could download on your phone, like Priceline and other Hopper. I use Hopper, Priceline. There's a lot of different things that you could download on your phone. There's a long list. I mean, it just depends on the individual. And you could get good tickets and good prices on rooms. And also there's point programs for Amtrak and Greyhound. You could get on their little points program to where you could get a discount on a fare or what have you. And, that helps out a little bit too. And then some people rent cars. I try to avoid it because they're kind of expensive to rent a car. And sometimes the one-ways, they just don't pan out for me. The one-ways are like double the price of any other transportation I could get. And so I tell you something that happened to me. I went down to Arkansas and I delivered a truck, and the train station wasn't far away, but the train didn't leave until the next day at 4 a.m. So I went to the hotel. I said, hey, do y'all have a taxi cab around here? She's like, no, everybody calls the sheriff. I'm like, calls the sheriff? She's like, yeah, the sheriff doesn't do anything. So everybody that needs a ride, they just call the sheriff. The sheriff comes, picks you up wherever, takes you to wherever. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So 4 o'clock in the morning comes. I call the sheriff. The sheriff's like, I'll be there in about 15 minutes. Sheriff comes over, picks me up, says, oh, just hop up in the front seat here. I was expecting the back seat. So he takes me to the train station. I get to the train station. It was cold. And I stand in this cold-ass room, and this old man walks up to me. And, this is 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. This old man walks up to me. He's like, hey, has train been by yet? I'm like, nope. He's like, what are you waiting on? I said, well, I got to wait on the eastbound train. He's like, oh, yeah. My son is coming in on the train, and he should be here momentarily. He's coming back from Iraq. I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. He's like, hey, you want to come over here in my van, drink some beer? I'm like, well, I just woke up. It's 3:34 in the morning, but fuck it. Why not? I got to get on the train. So I went over there, and him and his wife was sitting in a van celebrating their son coming home from Iraq. And I sat there, and they cracked open a 12-pack, and I drank beer with these two older people. It was kind of cool. And then I got to pass their son when he stepped off the train. I said, thanks, man, for your service. And I got on the train, and then they hugged their son and went on about their way. Never saw him again. So, I mean, it's kind of cool to ride the train, in my opinion, because you get to meet a lot of people. I don't know if you ever rode a train. Without exaggerating, I've pretty much rode all of them in the United States. Like all the Amtrak trains, especially on the East Coast. I used to use the train system, like the Amtrak to go north to south. I used that a lot. And then I've been on a lot of subways, but I don't know if I've been on all the subways, but I think I've been on the majority of them. I've traveled in Chicago a lot on their subway system. I kind of like it. I've even done it in the middle of the night and didn't have any trouble. But, you know, that was just a rare occasion, I guess. I don't know. But if you guys have any questions about doing drive-away, just comment below, and then I'll try to answer any questions the best I can. And if I can't figure it out on my own, I got a couple guys that I know, and I'll ask them, and then I will get the question answered and get back to you. Hope this video helped. I know I rambled on a lot, but sorry about that. I'm bored. I'm driving down the road. You see what I'm doing. I'm driving my tow vehicle right now. But y'all get out there and make some damn money.